Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. It is my pleasure to begin today's ceremony by welcoming our honorable guest, Yang Berusaha Professor Engineer Technologies Dr. Arham bin Abdullah, Vice Chancellor, University Malaysia Kelantan, the Honorable Dr. Haji Saidul Amin, Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, Indonesia, the Honorable Dr. Sanjay R. Chitnis, Vice Chancellor of Reva University, India, the Honorable Dr. G. Pardasaradi Varma, Vice Chancellor of KL University, India, Yang Berusaha Associate Professor Dr. Zulhazman bin Hamzah, Dean of the Faculty of Earth Science, University Malaysia Kelantan, the Honorable Dr. Prasidya, Dean of the Faculty of Science, Mathematics and Health, Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, Indonesia, the Honorable Professor Dr. Viswaswara Rao Pasupuleti, Director of International Relations and Research Collaborations, Reva University, India, Yang Berusaha Associate Professor Dr. Suganti Apalasamy, Chairman of International Conference on Tropical Resources and Sustainable Science 7.0, our keynote speakers, Yang Berusaha Associate Professor Dr. Christoph Vial, Institute for Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah, Malaysia, the Honorable Professor Engineer Dr. Rifardi, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine, Universitas Riau, Indonesia, Deputy Deans, Head of Programs, Member of the CTReSS 7.0 Organizing Committee, distinguished academicians, researchers, industry leaders, experts and professionals, and all participants attending both virtually and in person in Pekanbaru, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the opening ceremony of the 7th International Conference on Tropical Resources and Sustainable Science, CTReSS 7.0, with the theme Tropical Nexus, Integrating Science, Innovation, and Sustainability. Good morning to our distinguished guests, speakers, presenters, and participants, both joining us together virtually from various parts of the world and also joining us physically at Pekanbaru Riau, Indonesia. It is a great honor to welcome all of you to this prestigious conference, jointly organized by the Faculty of Earth Science, University Malaysia Kelantan, Malaysia, Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, Indonesia, Reva University, India, and KL University, India. I'm Dr. Nurul from University Malaysia Kelantan, and I will be your MC for today's event. Together with me is Dr. Fahmi from Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, who is hosting the physical ceremony at Hotel Pangeran in Pekanbaru Riau, Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our ceremony, I kindly invite everyone to stand or remain respectfully attentive for the singing of the national anthems. We will begin with Negaraku, the national anthems of Malaysia, followed by Indonesia Raya, the national anthems of Indonesia. Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, to learn more about our collaborating institutions, we will now proceed with a short corporate video from University Malaysia Kelantan, followed by a presentation video from Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau.
University Malaysia Kelantan UMK is an entrepreneurship-oriented university. We aim to fulfill the government's aspiration to produce a young generation that is not only well-educated but also possesses entrepreneurial spirit in their heart. UMK is an entrepreneurial university in Malaysia and aspires to be one of the world's best. This is in line with the National Entrepreneurship Policy, which seeks to make Malaysia an entrepreneurial nation by 2030. UMK also ensures that the entire university operates within an entrepreneurial ecosystem which includes 10 faculties and is supported by institutions and centers of excellence implemented with innovation-based entrepreneurial disciplines. By implementing this ecosystem, UMK Entrepreneurship Institute (UMKEI) is leading 4 other entrepreneurship centers: the Center for Entrepreneurship Education and Development (CEED), the Institute of Small and Medium Enterprises (ISME), the Global Entrepreneurship Research and Innovation Center (GERIC), and Ignite Venture Lab (IVL). The Faculty of Entrepreneurship and Business, which spearheads this structure, successfully expanded collaborative entrepreneurial networks such as UMK Frontier Street, the Entrepreneurship Advisory Council, and proudly led the KPTM Guideline Committee for Integrated Entrepreneurship Education. From the academic aspect, UMK offers 32 undergraduate programs and 20 postgraduate programs in the fields such as business and management, tourism and hospitality, science and technology, veterinary medicine, communication, languages, architecture, as well as creative technology and heritage. Additionally, UMK provides foundation programs in science, foundation in information technology (HUFAZ), and pre-degree in science. The university continuously enhances its teaching and learning systems to ensure that the learning process occurs creatively and innovatively through My Academic Integrated System (MyEyes), massive open online courses (MOOCs), and blended learning. UMK is committed to cultivating top-notch graduates to become industry leaders. Collaborating with globally recognized local corporate sectors and regional educational institution networks aim to strengthen UMK comprehensively. This commitment is evidenced by the increase in graduate employability percentage and graduates who create job opportunities through entrepreneurship. Research, innovation, and commercializations are pivotal aspects of UMK. Research funding and the number of innovations and commercialized products increase annually. UMK has showcased excellent performance in various prestigious competitions. With #UMK4Society, UMK also actively engages in various community activities. We at UMK believe that our presence will offer a fresh perspective on knowledge advancement. Indeed, our core focus, entrepreneurship, will continuously make University Malaysia Kelantan relevant, unique, and distinctive.
Sejarah Muhammadiyah adalah kisah tentang pencerahan dan kemajuan. Didirikan di Yogyakarta oleh Kiai Haji Ahmad Dahlan pada tahun 1912, Muhammadiyah tumbuh menjadi organisasi Islam modern yang mencerahkan semesta. Di tanah Minangkabau, Syekh Abdul Karim Amrullah Buya A.R. Sultan Mansur dan Buya Hamka menjadi 3 pilar penting Muhammadiyah. Dengan kearifan dan keteguhan hati, mereka meniupkan ruh Islam ke jasad adat Minangkabau. Melalui orasi dan tulisan mereka, menyemai benih pembaharuan, meninggalkan legasi abadi bahwa Islam dan kemajuan dapat berjalan beriringan. Riau juga melahirkan banyak bintang gemintang Muhammadiyah, di antaranya Mahmud Marzuki, pemimpin visioner yang meniup bara pembaharuan menjadi api perjuangan. Tokoh yang syahid di gelanggang perjuangan ini adalah mentari yang mencerahkan semesta dengan nilai-nilai Islam yang berkemajuan. Muhammadiyah lahir di Yogyakarta, tumbuh di Minangkabau, dan bersinar di bumi lancang kuning. Dan disinilah kita, di Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, sebuah wujud nyata dari cita-cita para pendahulu untuk mencerdaskan dan mencerahkan. Di jantung Provinsi Riau, berdiri sebuah institusi yang tak hanya menjadi tempat menimba ilmu, tapi juga menjadi rumah bagi mimpi dan harapan ribuan mahasiswa. Inilah Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, atau yang kita kenal dengan UMRI. Setiap hari, ribuan langkah kaki melintasi koridor-koridor kampus ini. Mereka bukan hanya sekedar mahasiswa, tapi adalah masa depan bangsa yang sedang ditempa. Dengan 9 fakultas dari 31 program studi serta program pascasarjana, UMRI memberikan kesempatan kepada mahasiswa untuk mengembangkan potensi diri di berbagai bidang ilmu. Fakultas Teknik memiliki 4 program studi. Fakultas MIPA dan Kesehatan memiliki 6 program studi. Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis memiliki 4 program studi. Fakultas Ilmu Komputer memiliki 2 program studi. Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi memiliki 2 program studi. Fakultas Hukum memiliki 1 program studi. Fakultas Keguruan dan Ilmu Pendidikan memiliki 4 program studi. Fakultas Studi Islam memiliki 3 program studi. Fakultas Kedokteran memiliki 1 program studi. Selain itu, UMRI juga memiliki sekolah pasca sarjana. Di balik setiap prestasi dan pencapaian, ada sosok yang tak kenal lelah yang terus berjuang. Mereka adalah para dosen UMRI yang tidak hanya mengajar, tapi juga menginspirasi. UMRI terus berkomitmen untuk memberikan yang terbaik, dari laboratorium berteknologi tinggi hingga sarana dan prasarana yang lengkap. Semua ini adalah investasi kami untuk masa depan para mahasiswa. Namun, pendidikan di UMRI tidak terbatas pada ruang kelas. Di setiap sudut kampus, Anda akan melihat diskusi hangat antara dosen dan mahasiswa, menunjukkan bahwa proses pembelajaran tidak pernah berhenti. Namun di UMRI, kualitas pendidikan bukan hanya tentang pencapaian akademis. Sebagai universitas yang berakar pada nilai-nilai Islam dan kemuhammadiyahan, UMRI berkomitmen untuk membentuk insan yang tidak hanya cerdas secara intelektual, tapi juga memiliki akhlak yang mulia. Di UMRI, kami memadukan ilmu pengetahuan modern dengan nilai-nilai Islam yang universal. Melalui mata kuliah Al-Islam dan Kemuhammadiyahan, kami membimbing mahasiswa untuk menjadi profesional yang berintegritas dan memiliki kepedulian sosial yang tinggi. UMRI bukan hanya sebuah universitas. Ini adalah tempat di mana mimpi-mimpi dibentuk, potensi-potensi digali, dan masa depan cerah dipersiapkan. Dengan semangat yang tak pernah padam, kami di UMRI akan terus berjuang, memastikan bahwa setiap mahasiswa yang melangkah keluar dari gerbang kampus ini siap menjadi pemimpin masa depan yang berkualitas. Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau membentuk generasi berkualitas, membangun masa depan yang gemilang.
Thank you for those insightful and well presented videos. Ladies and gentlemen, to seek blessing for our conference, I would like to invite Yang Berusaha Ustaz Zulfikri Saidina Ali to lead us in a prayer recitation. Please welcome.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Ya Allah, thank you for granting us the opportunity to gather in this assembly. We ask you to bless this event from its beginning to its end. Guide us in our discussions and decisions so that they align with your will. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, strengthen the bonds of unity among us and make this gathering a means for us to achieve goodness and success in this world and the hereafter. Ya Allah, Ya Aziz, Ya Jabbar, make this gathering full of blessings and mercy. Protect us from any harm and keep us under your care always. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Amin, 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 ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you, Yang Berusaha Ustaz Zulfikri, for the prayer recitation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to invite the Honorable Dr. Haji Saidul Amin, Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Director of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation and full support for the 7th International Conference on Tropical Resources and Sustainable Science 2025, organized by the Faculty of Mathematics, Natural Science, and Health. Indonesia, as one of the world's richest tropical countries, holds immense biodiversity and natural worlds, starting from rainforests and peatlands to marine ecosystem and unique endemic species. These resources are not only of national significance, but are also global assets in the pursuit of sustainable science and development. As a higher education institution based on Islamic values and scientific spirit, UMRI is committed to actively contribute to the development of science and technology, particularly in addressing strategic issues such as climate change, environmental conservation, food security, and renewable energy. From our perspective, the scientific and sustainable management of tropical natural resources can be achieved through several key strategies. First, a scientific-based approach to research, innovations, and environmentally friendly technology. Second, sustainable management by prioritizing ecological principles. Third, community empowerment, especially those who live there. Fourth, supportive policies and regulation. And the last one, multidisciplinary and international collaboration. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this esteemed conference serves as a vital platform for the exchange of knowledge, ideas, and experience across various disciplines, which will strengthen collaboration in addressing the complex challenge of sustainable tropical resource management. Through this conference, embodies the spirit of Tropical Nexus by integrating science innovation, sustainability, and local wisdom. It is our hope that this forum will serve as a catalyst for cross-border research collaboration and development of real impactful solutions. We envision that this conference will not only generate high-quality academic publication, but also foster long-term institutional partnership and produce tangible outcomes that address pressing environmental and social issues in tropical regions. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to all committee members, participants, and supporters. May this conference be a source of inspiration and motivation for all involved and contribute significantly to elevating Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, especially in the field of research, so that the knowledge and innovation produced here will benefit all of humanity. On behalf of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, I am honored to officially open the 7th International Conference on Tropical Resources and Sustainable Science 2025. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, the Honorable Dr. Haji Saidul Amin, for your warm and meaningful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the important highlight for today's event, the official opening of CTReSS 7.0. To formally inaugurate our conference, it is my honor to invite Young Bursa Professor Engineer Technologies Dr. Arham bin Abdullah, Vice Chancellor of University Malaysia Kelantan, to deliver the officiating speech and officially open CTReSS 7.0. Please welcome.
Distinguished Master of Ceremony, the Honorable Dr. Haji Saidul Amin, Rector of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, Indonesia, the Honorable Dr. Sanjay R. Chitnis, Vice Chancellor of Reva University, India, the Honorable Dr. G. Parda Saradi Varma, Vice Chancellor of KL University, India, the Honorable Dr. Prasetya, Dean of the Faculty of Science and Mathematics and Health, Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, CTReSS 7.0 Advisors, Dean of the Faculty of Earth Science, FSB, University Malaysia Kelantan, Associate Professor Dr. Zuhazman Hamzah, Director of International Relations and Research Collaboration, Reva University, India, Prof. Dr. Visweswara Rao Pasupurleti, Associate Professor Dr. Suganti Apalasamy, Chairman of International Conference on Tropical Resource and Sustainable Science 7.0. Our keynote speakers, Prof. Dr. I.R. Rifardi, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine, Universitas Riau, Pekanbaru, Indonesia, Dr. Christoph Wiat, Institute for Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah. The invited speakers, Dr. Pankaj Kumar, Head of the Department of Earth and Environmental Science, Faculty of Applied Science, Parul University, Vadodara, Gujarat, India. Prof. Dr. Engineer Adi Maulana, Vice Rector for Partnership, Innovation, Business and Entrepreneurship, Hasanuddin University, Indonesia. Prof. Dr. Shi Roy, Vice Dean, College of Forestry, Southwest Forestry, University, China. Associate Professor Dr. Suganti Apalasamy, Chairman of International Conference on Tropical Resource and Sustainable Science 7.0. Members of the CTReSS 7.0 Organizing Committee, distinguished academicians, researchers, industry leaders, experts, and professionals, all participants attending both physically and virtually, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and greeting to all praise to be Allah Almighty for His grace and blessing that we are able to gather today, whether physically in Indonesia or virtually, to officiate this much anticipated conference, the 7th International Conference on Tropical Resource and Sustainable Science, CTReSS 7.0. Firstly, allow me to extend my highest appreciation and gratitude to the entire organizing committee, especially the Faculty of Earth Science, University Malaysia Kelantan, for their continuous dedication and commitment in making this prestigious conference a success. Since its first edition in 2014 and through 6 consecutive editions, CTReSS has been a consistently important platform, demonstrating UMK unwavering commitment and sustainability and tropical resources. This year, CTReSS 7.0 adopts a highly relevant and progressive theme, Tropical Nexus Integrating Science, Innovation and Sustainability. This theme is more than just words. It is a call to action and integrated thinking in addressing the increasingly complex global challenges related to natural resources and sustainability. It underlines the urgent needs to combine scientific discoveries with pragmatic innovation to achieve comprehensive sustainability. CTReSS 7.0 marks a new milestone and a new chapter for this conference. We are proud to announce our strategic collaboration with 3 esteemed universities as co-hosts: Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau from Indonesia, as well as Reva University and KL University from India. This collaboration not only enriches the conference experience but also strengthens our international collaboration networks, broadening the reach of knowledge and expertise in tropical resource management. The choice of Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, Indonesia as the host for the physical conference is highly appropriate. Its strategic location within the tropical corridors offers a unique and relevant perspective for our discussion. Furthermore, the hybrid format implemented will ensure broad participation from around the world, allowing more academicians, industry leaders, experts, and professionals to share their latest insights and findings. Ladies and gentlemen, as a dynamic platform, CTReSS 7.0 will explore sustainable solutions for responsible natural resource management. This includes viewing from environmental, social, and economic perspective. I'm confident that the discussion and presentation throughout these 2 days will generate new ideas, stimulate innovation, and pave the way for closer multidisciplinary collaboration. Let us seize this opportunity to exchange views, build professional networks, and collectively contribute towards building a more sustainable future for our planet, especially in this richly biodiverse tropical region. Your contribution, whether in terms of research, best practices, or policy, are invaluable in shaping the global sustainability narrative. Finally, I would like to reiterate my gratitude to all parties involved in the organization of CTReSS 7.0, the co-organizers, the working committee, the sponsors, and not forgetting all participants who have committed to attending and participating in this conference. With the recitation of Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I have a great pleasure to officially declare that 7th International Conference on Tropical Resource and Sustainable Science CTReSS 7.0 open. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berusaha Professor Engineer Technologies, Dr. Arham bin Abdullah, for your impactful address and for officially inaugurating the CTReSS 7.0. Ladies and gentlemen, CTReSS 7.0 is now officially open. To mark this occasion, we will now proceed with the group photo session. We kindly invite all physical participants at Bertua Hall, Hotel Pangeran, Pekanbaru to prepare for the group photo. We also request all virtual guests on StreamYard to turn on your cameras so that we can capture this special moment with both our physical and online attendees.
If everyone can get closer to the front, please, to be in front of the camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, on a count of three. 3, 2, 1. Thank you to all. Ladies and gentlemen, following the official opening of CTReSS 7.0 a moment ago, we will now proceed to the core of our conference, the keynote session with two distinguished speakers who will share their profound expertise and global perspective. For this keynote session, we are honored to have Yang Berusaha, Associate Professor Dr. Christo Wia from the Institute for Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah, Malaysia, and the Honorable Professor Engineer Dr. Rifardi from the Faculty of Fisheries and Marine, Universitas Riau, Indonesia. For your information, both of the keynote speeches will be delivered in parallel mode and will take place in a hybrid format. The online keynote address will be delivered in person by Professor Engineer Dr. Rifardi at Bertua Hall, Hotel Pangeran, Pekanbaru, Riau. This offline keynote session will be moderated by Dr. Fahmi from Universitas Muhammadiyah Riau, while the online keynote address will be delivered virtually by Associate Professor Dr. Christo Wia and will be moderated by Dr. Nivarani Arumugam from University Malaysia Kelantan. This keynote address will be streamed live on this current channel. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin the in-person keynote session, I am pleased to hand the floor over to Dr. Fahmi at Bertua Hall. Please welcome Dr. Fahmi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nurul, for the kind introduction and warm handover. It's an honor for me to be the moderator for this physical keynote speech here in Pangeran Hotel, Pekanbaru, Riau, Indonesia.
We wish you an engaging and inspiring keynote session live at Bertua Hall. Thank you, Dr. Fahmi.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Dr. Nivarani Arumugam to moderate the online keynote session with our keynote speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Christo Wia. Dr. Nivarani, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nurul. A very good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Nivarani Armugam, and it's my great pleasure to moderate this keynote session. We are honored to have with us today an esteemed expert in ethnopharmacology and medicinal plant research, Associate Professor Dr. Christophe Viat. So the keynote presentation today is titled Ethnopharmacology in the Asia Pacific, a journey through traditional remedies and modern applications, the case of Sabah, East Malaysia. Associate Prof. Dr. Christophe Viat is a leading expert specializing in natural product chemistry and drug discovery at the Institute of Tropical Biology and Conservation, University Malaysia Sabah. With over 2 decades of academic experience in Southeast Asia, Dr. Viat's research career is distinguished by a profound commitment to exploring the ethnopharmacological and phytochemical properties of medicinal plants, particularly those endemic to the tropical rainforests of Asia. Throughout his distinguished career, Dr. Viat has been at the forefront of drug discovery, focusing on antimicrobial, cytotoxic, and antiparasitic compounds derived from Southeast Asian flora. He has authored numerous scientific publications and books in this field, contributing immensely to the knowledge and preservation of plant-based traditional medicines. Notably, he is ranked among the top 2% of scientists worldwide by the Stanford List 2021 to 2024. We are truly privileged to have him with us today to share his insight on how the rich biodiversity of Sabah holds promise in modern drug discovery and development. Without further ado, I invite Associate Professor Dr. Christoph Viat to deliver his keynote presentation. Doctor, the floor is
Yes,
yours.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, Doctor, it's very clear.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, good morning, everyone, and I'm very grateful for University Malaysia Kelantan for giving me the honor to be here today. It's good to be here, and actually, I came to Sabah in 2022, and I didn't know anything about the state of Sabah, and I came from Kuala Lumpur. I worked in other universities before, University of Malaya. And when I came to Sabah, I was asked by one of my collaborator to think about writing a book on the medicinal plants of Sabah. Okay, and I knew nothing about this, but to write this book took me about 2 years, and during these 2 years, I really met very interesting, fascinating, compelling things. I mean, there are some. I discovered some plants that are used in Sabah for medicinal practices, and today I'm here with you to share what I have learned from these plants of Sabah and what Malaysia and what globally can be done with these plants to cure diseases like some form of cancer, that cannot be cured, and also some viral diseases. So I'm just here to share what I learned so far and to try to give some perhaps enthusiasm for young generations to go into that field of ethnopharmacology and natural products. Okay. So this talk is going to be related around several subjects of science, which include the taxonomical identification of plants. You know that in science, it is very important to have a very accurate identification of the plant that you are working with. You need the species, the genus, you need the authority and the family. So we speak about that. We will speak also about the main diseases treated by the various ethnic groups of Sabah. Actually, I found that compared to Peninsular Malaysia, Sabah is home to an incredible diversity of ethnic groups and languages and cultures. It is one of the perhaps last places in Southeast Asia where you've got, some people living in remote areas and speaking their own language and have their own cultures. And these people have a very deep and long attachment to the land of Sabah. They have sorcerers and shamans. They've been living in the forest and in nature for thousands of years, and they are truly knowledgeable in the treatment of diseases. And how strange as it may sound, sometimes they can cure diseases. Sometimes in villages, people go to hospital, they come back, they are told they have not much to live, but they have shamans and sorcerers and herbalists, and some of them actually survive and have met people like that. So we have a lot of things to learn from those people. We speak also about the ethnic groups of Sabah and the plant users. What is interesting to observe is that you've got some local ethnic groups, most of them, which are Dusuns and Kadazans, but you also have more recent ethnic groups which have arrived in Sabah, okay, like the Bajaus, for instance, and so forth and so on. So there is a correlation between the plant used and the ethnic groups, and we can even see that true local ethnic groups are using most of the plants which are called endemic, which means they are plants native from, from the state. We look also into something very important, which are the side effects, because as you know, sometimes plant can be poisonous. Okay, people think that okay, it's nice. I'm taking a plant from nature. I'm going to cure myself, but oh my dear, no, because many plants, if not most of them, have side effects, and some of them can kill people. And I will go into that, and even some of the plants that you may know already, but the public is not aware of the side effects. And just now it was said by the honorable presenters that there is a wish in Malaysia and globally to develop herbal remedies. And in Southeast Asia, you have plenty of plants for that. But before manufacturing and putting in the public some plants, you really have to ascertain their side effects. Then levels of studies, what has been done so far in Sabah, and lastly, the future prospects. So if I tell you that COVID-19 is not the last virus which is going to hit humanity, you may perhaps think this guy is a bit of a pessimist, okay, but it's not, doesn't come from me, okay? The scientific community, especially microbiologists, are fully aware that COVID-19 is not the last virus which is going to, hit humanity, okay? COVID-19 was a tragedy. A lot of people passed away. But we are aware that, microbiologists are aware that the COVID pandemic will, in all probability, sooner or later, be followed by other waves of pandemic. And these can be viruses, or they can be bacteria, or they can be fungi. Okay, for instance, you've got in India, I think, something called Candida auris, which is a yeast for which no treatment exists. Okay, so in the past, long before the antibiotics were discovered, okay, people were dying of infections. Okay, that's why they had a lot of kids. They were having a lot of children because most of the children will die. In my country, in France, in the 17th century, 16th century, actually, when you look at the registers, most of the kids born in a family were dying before the age of 10. Okay, before the arrival of antibiotics, if you had tooth infection, you may die. Okay, when giving birth. Okay, so this is the case of multi-drug resistant bacteria and yeast, which are here and are going to come more and more. Okay, but we will also have some in all probability, globally, we will have some dangerous viruses. For instance, you've got here Ebola virus, okay, which came in Africa. It's because the forest was cut there. They cut the primary rainforest, and some of the workers were in touch with some rats or mice. They get bitten, and the Ebola virus will kill someone with hemorrhages, within few days, okay? Thanks goodness, COVID-19 did not kill people fast. But in the future, people and governments must be ready and know that we are going to face one day some major bacteriological catastrophes. And it is very important for governments to already to examine their natural resources and to find molecules that will actually be able to avoid being caught off guard as we were with COVID-19 and even sometimes influenza. So there's a problem globally. Pandemics are coming. We need drugs, okay? And you can find drugs in marine products, and even sometimes in animals, minerals perhaps, but we also have the plants and the medicinal plants. Actually, historically, most of the drugs are coming from plants, and I should like to say many drugs which are used now in Europe and globally have their origin in Asian, traditional pharmacopoeias. Now, beside this problem of potential pandemics or to viruses and bacteria and so forth and so on, we also have the very heavy, death rate globally due to obesity, high blood pressure, cholesterol, what we call metabolic syndrome, so forth and so on. And this is because of course, we are, I think, 7 billion people in the world, and we can't blame the industry. Okay, industries actually are here to feed all of those people, fast. But the problem is that many of these foods are not healthy, and they are full of calories. They are full of preservatives, and and the food that we are actually having in our, industrial food is responsible, at least in part, for the enormous burden of diabetes, high blood pressure, and also we can speak about cancer. Okay, we have made a lot of progress with cancer. We can cure now we can cure people with cancer. Is great. Okay, but some forms of cancer are still a major source of problem, and also we can't prevent cancer. And some of the plants which are used in Asia, in Southeast Asia, and I've seen this in Sabah, that we need more experimental evidence, but some of these plants actually could be used as nutraceuticals, to prevent the coming of cancer. So for the last almost 30 years, I came from my natal, beautiful Brittany in France, and I was a pharmacy student, and I came to Malaysia in 1995. I was sent by the CNRS, and I went with some good people and good friends of University of Malaya to the rainforest of Peninsula Malaysia. At that time, we had more forest, and I was completely overwhelmed, in complete awe in front of as a young pharmacy student, by the botanical wealth, the phytochemical wealth, and the medical wealth of Malaysia. And I stayed here for many, many years and produced all of these books, which you can find, online. Okay, the purpose of these books is to actually assist locally and globally with the development of local plants as drugs, cosmetics, and also nutraceuticals, and also veterinary products. Now, I spoke just now about these plants of Sabah, and published with CTReSS, I think last year. This book has been released, in which I actually jotted down what I have observed with the plant of Sabah, which is actually just above Kalimantan. So this can be, for my Indonesian friends and researchers, some of the plants used in Sabah are used in Kalimantan and also in Sarawak. Now, I arrived in Sabah, and I knew absolutely nothing about Sabah. Okay, I came from KL, and I got a bit of knowledge about some Southeast Asian countries, and also a bit of India and Bangladesh and China also, but Sabah, I didn't know. Okay, but it was a good thing to come here. I slowly, and day by day, working daily, I managed to slowly acquaint myself with Sabah and its people, its culture. But I'm not claiming that I know everything. Okay, I'm still learning. So Sabah is a state of Malaysia, and it was historically called North Borneo. Okay, and that piece of land is characterized by being under the control throughout history by various powers. Okay, you've got the Hindus of Java. Okay, I think around the 7th century. Then after this, you've got some sultans of Brunei. Okay, then Sultan of Sulux in the Philippines, and then the British came in the 19th century, and Sabah became actually property of a British company. Okay, and then you've got, after that, the Japanese for a while. Then So this land actually has been under various foreign controls, okay? And in fact, the name North Borneo comes from, British administration. But what remains, I mean, despite all of this, also I should like to say that Sabah was also, North Borneo, of this northern state of the island, throughout its history has been working a lot with China. Okay, Sabah was the people living in Sabah were friends with China, the emperors of China, and even the Sultan of Brunei was a friend of the emperors of China. And you had a lot and a lot of commercial exchanges between China, Imperial China, with ceramics and other goods, okay, huge jars. You can find in Sabah in some village, some Chinese jars which are very old. And in exchange, the native of Sabah were exchanging some, some bird nest and forest product. Like for instance, we've got damar from Shorea leprozola, which in the family Dipterocarpaceae. You also have camphor from Driobalanops aromatica and gutta from Sapotaceae with the name of Palacium, Leiocarpum, and maybe I think many other products, I suspect. So Sabah was exporting a lot of forest product. It was covered by an absolutely fantastic, beautiful, pristine primary rainforest. Okay. Now everyone knows that the forest is gone. Okay, you only have few patches of rainforest. That's the way it is. Okay. So we have lost a lot of precious, rare, unique trees, and which could have been, source of drugs for the treatment of cancer, HIV, and other things. These trees are gone. So we are left now with a few patch of forest, which really need to be investigated, a lot. And the Americans have worked in Sarawak and did a great job, and they found there from some plants, I think in the 90s, sylvestrol and other calanolides substances from endemic plants of Sarawak for the treatment of cancer, if I'm not mistaken, and HIV. Okay, just two plants. Okay, so you've got in Sabah, in Sarawak, and also in Kalimantan. And since you've got Indonesian friends here, you know it, your primary rainforest, what you've got left here are actually the most precious and interesting sources of drugs for humanity. Okay, we may have in the future new diseases. Okay, we don't know. So, I think that plants are the best source of natural products. So we are lucky to be in this part of the world. Now, okay, so arrived in Sabah in 2022. I knew nothing, so I make some sort of search on the Google, and I found some old books written in English. And I must pay credit to Mr. Norman Evans, who died, I think, in Labuan in 1957. This British man loved Sabah. He was close to Sabah, and Dusuns especially. And he wrote a very interesting book, Among the Primitive People of Borneo. I read a bit of this book. He was a British colonial administrator. He was in Tuaran and Tempasuk from 1910 to 1911. And he described the customs and traditions of the Dusuns, which are one of the major groups of locals in Sabah. And he speaks already about a very mysterious plant, magic plant, okay, which was venerated by the Sabahans, by the Dusuns, and we will go back into that. Then we also have the work of Rotter, who also served as British administrator from 1910 to 1915. Okay, we must, acknowledge the fact that the colonization of Sabah by the British Empire, okay, it was not a perfect, nice thing. Okay, there's pros and cons. Okay, but at least with the arrival of the British Empire in Sabah, order, was restored, because in Sabah's history, you had a lot and a lot of inter-ethnic sometimes massacres. Some people were having some very long machetes, and for them, cutting a head was nothing. Okay, and I even actually visit a village. Okay, in which you still have skulls of enemies. It's quite frightening. Okay, so we cannot deny the fact that colonization has brought peace and harmony to Sabah. And in fact, okay, all of this cutting head and wounds also is perhaps explain the fact that a lot of plants in Sabah are used for wounds and cuts. Okay. Now, there is also, I also consulted the work of some linguists, because if you want to understand and define an ethnic group, you have to have a bit of knowledge on their linguistics. And I consulted the work of Professor Kroger in the US. I even contacted him, and I'm grateful to his guidance throughout my research. Okay. Now, let us look into the botanical distribution, the taxonomic distribution of the plants of Sabah. What emerges from this research, and I'm still working on that, okay, is that you've got about 696 species of plants which have been in the literature described are being used, okay, for medicinal purposes. Okay. But this figure is very small. I think that you can even perhaps think of double or thrice this number. Okay. Today, I mean that, to be honest, I think that no one really knows the figure. Okay. So we've got this number of, of plants, and all of these plants are within 136 families. And what is interesting, what I found interesting is that most of these plants actually are, of course, flowering plants or angiosperms, but you also have a large number of ferns. Okay, large, it is 4.1%, but compared to other Southeast Asian countries, Sabahans use a fair amount of ferns, and this can be explained by the fact that you've got in Sabah the beautiful Mount Kinabalu, which is very high, okay, with a cool temperature where, ferns like to be found. And the phytochemistry and pharmacology of fern, although not very much known nowadays, is extremely important. Now, when we look into these flowering plants, we can see that we've got a majority of basal angiosperms and some core angiosperms. Basal angiosperm is not surprising here because we are in a tropical country. Okay, these plants are water loving, like gingers, or some grasses. Then we can look into now the basal angiosperms. Okay, so these basal angiosperms are mostly represented by monocotyledons, monocots, and of course, a very broad variety of gingers. Okay, Indonesia is also blessed with lots of gingers. Okay, many of these gingers have fantastic pharmacological and nutraceutical properties. We'll go back into that later. Also, we've got some poaceae or grasses, and also palm trees or arecaceae. What is also very interesting pharmacologically and phytochemically speaking is the fact that you've got a lot of plants in the family Annonaceae and the family Lauraceae. Okay, Annonaceae, in simple word, is the family of soursop, for instance. Okay, and Lauraceae is the family of avocado. And these types of families are very, very rich in fantastic natural products, fantastic in a pharmacological, therapeutic point of view, such as isoquinoline alkaloids and acetogenins and so forth and so on. And another interesting observation, I noticed that many of these plants were actually endemic, okay? Meaning to say that they are not found in the Philippines or in Peninsular Malaysia or Kalimantan or Thailand or Bangladesh or India, only there. It's interesting because they have never been studied. Okay, so when the plant is not studied, there is the possibility of having a therapeutic jackpot. Okay. And endemism is very high around the Mount Kinabalu. So I suspect that in Indonesia, if you've got some volcanoes, or if you've got some, of course we've got volcanoes, okay, but I'm not an expert in geography of Indonesia. I fly once above Java, I saw beautiful volcanoes. But Indonesia also, you may also have very interesting endemic plants around mountains and volcanoes. Now, let's go into the core angiosperms. The core angiosperms, the main groups there are observed were the malvids and the fabids. And in the fabids, the main families were the Euphorbiaceae, which is the family of Hevea, for instance, the Fabaceae, which is the bean family, and the Moraceae, which is the ficus family. Okay, so these are the main families. And we've got 6% of endemic plants, of which mainly lots of plants in the family Melastomataceae. Okay, a very famous Melastomataceae in Southeast Asia is Melastoma malabatricum, but it's not interesting. It's one of the examples for those who are not fluent with botany. Upper angiosperms, there is not much upper angiosperms in Sabah. Okay, but among these we've got, I mean, not many medicinal angiosperms in Sabah, but we have many lamids, most of which are in the family Rubiaceae. We'll see some example later. The family Rubiaceae is the family of coffee. It is also the family of, quinine tree, okay, Cinchona from South America, from which you've got this, quinine that saved the life of millions of people and allowed, colonization, because white people were dying easily in the tropics before the arrival of anti-malarial drugs. So we will speak about the Rubiaceae later. Now, then I was confronted with a vast bulk of data about the various diseases treated, okay? And I had to organize this, and I found a paper published by Cook in 1995, which give a simple way to, and quite sharp, accurate way to, to classify these diseases. And it was adapted, and then I, just decided to classify the use as very frequent use for when more than 50 species are used for one disease, and then it is very frequent use. And when we have from 25 to 49 species used for a disease, it is frequent use, moderate 12 to 24, and rare use from 1 to 11 species. It is always difficult for ethnopharmacologists, to deal with diseases, okay? You go to a village and they say, okay, this plant is used for, say, for instance, blurred vision, okay? But blurred vision can be due to what? It can be due to some sore eyes, okay? It can be due to some viral infection in the eyes. It can be due to some brain problem, and it can be due also to hypertension and so forth and so on. So ethnopharmacologists are, when they go to villages, they try to, identify, to have an early gut feeling on what do we have in this plant and what is the pharmacological target. Then, okay, so looking at all of these papers published and books published, because I made, a literature review, and I published a paper actually last year, I think, in Pharmaceutical Biology, a review paper about the plants of Sabah. so I look into all of these diseases, and what emerges is that we've got a few major ailments which seem to be preferably, used, treated by the various ethnic groups of Sabah. The first ones are infections, and this, encompasses bacterial, fungal, mycobacterial, viral infections. And what emerges is that about a third of these 696 plants are used by the various, ethnic groups in Sabah to treat infections and symptoms related to infections. And very frequent use was observed for bacterial skin infection, and also we've got for cough. Cough could be due to tuberculosis, and we have to say that until the late 50s, the death toll of tuberculosis in Sabah was extremely high, okay? People were dying of tuberculosis a lot. So cough yet, but tuberculosis, okay, perhaps together. So cough, okay. We've got also frequent use, moderate use for treating malaria and fungal infection, and rarely used for sexually transmissible diseases like gonorrhea and also syphilis. It's interesting, I suspect that syphilis might have been quite prevalent in Sabah, but I didn't find plans for much plans for syphilis. I don't know why. Okay. For tuberculosis, there is one plant which has been used in Sabah. This plant is called Myrmecodia platitirae beccari. It belongs to the family Rubiaceae, okay? And the Bajau name of this plant is Sarang Semut. I'm sure that you've got this plant in Kalimantan, and even perhaps in Kelantan, okay? And that plant, I have the gut feeling, has a lot of therapeutic potentials, for Asian countries and perhaps, globally. Okay, but the phytochemistry is not very much known. Okay, we found a few irradiated glycosides. It's still preliminary. Okay, but that one is a very interesting plant. It's not very nice. That plant is quite ugly actually. It grows on tree. You can check some photos on Google, and it's not quite beautiful. Okay, but it has, I think, maybe that's why they call it, I think, Sarang Semut. Okay, I think that another name of this is, I'm not sure though, if it is, never mind. Okay, we may speak about this later. Another one is Uvaria cuneifolia in the family Ananaceae, used for fever by the Bajaus, and it is used as Kayu bibiris. I don't know what does it mean, but I think that Sarang Semut means something like the home of the ants. Okay, so you've got here an herbarium sample of Uvaria cuneifolia, the typical Ananaceae, as you can see. Now, another type of health problem that has been principally, addressed by local Sabahan ethnopharmacopoeias are digestive system. This can be, perhaps explained that, the food sometimes is not very clean. When you went to a village of Dusuns or, Muruts in the 19th century, I think it was actually very primitive, and although being very nice and kind people, I'm sure that they were suffering from malnutrition and very heavy sanitary problems. So the waters might not be clean, the food maybe was not clean, okay? So about, again, 1/3 of these 696 plants, medicinal plants of Sabah are used for the treatment of diseases related to digestive system. most commonly stomachache. And I found that, some plants, again, I found that some plants were very interesting in this light. One of them is Lepno, um, sorry, Lepnokia heteroclita in the family Sterculiaceae, which is used for stomachache by the Dusuns, who call this plant Tembulang manok. Okay, I think that manok means, I think in manok in Philippines means chicken, I think. Okay. And this plant does not appear to have been studied at all. So we've got here an herbarium sample of that plant, okay, and nothing has been done. So, in terms of research in Malaysia and research in Indonesia and for Southeast Asian country, all of these countries are blessed with really a wealth of plants which have never been studied ever in human history. Okay, so there is the need to join efforts and to work on these plants and find their constituents and make some tests with animals, and even if they're not toxic with if proven non-toxic in animal, perhaps also go for preclinical trials and also make some medicines of usefulness for Malaysians and Southeast Asians and also globally. Now, about a quarter of all of the plant recensed in Sabah are used for injuries and related ailments. And again, we go back to what was said before, that Sabah, before the arrival of British administration, was actually not safe. People were fighting, cutting head. It was a bit of a mess. So it may explain why, injuries and wounds are diseases which are, you know, um, you know, um, some of the major, health situation addressed with these ethnopharmacopoeias, and especially wounds. Okay, and we also have treatment of insect stings and snake bites. It's normal when you work in the forest. It's full of insects and snakes. Poisoning from blowpipe darts. Okay, the Murut are very talented in making some um, some blowgun darts, and actually people get they know which antidote to use and which poison to use. Okay, now pain is another one. Okay, um, particularly headaches and toothaches, which, and also we've got well, headache can be due to hypertension. Also, we have postpartum, which is also a very a major. I mean, it's not a disease, okay? It is a physiological condition, but which can have some complications, and locals of Sabah are using a lot of these plants for that. One of the plants which is used for postpartum in Sabah is Bromea balsamifera DC in the family Asteraceae. It is called Tawawo by actually by the Dusuns. It has wound healing properties. It has been confirmed experimentally in rodent, and the active constituents might be flavonoids. And there is a study, I think, published by Guan and co-workers in 2019 about this. The Pathorium odoratum in the family Asteraceae is also used for scalding by a lot of ethnic groups in Sabah. It is called in Dusun rumput, Malaysia, and the therapeutic properties were confirmed by the work of Indonesian researchers, Fitrianda and co-workers in 2014. Chazalia chartacea, okay, is used by the Dusun to treat vision disorder, but this plant might contain some hypotensive indole alkaloids. Bridelia stipularis in the family, Phyllanthacea, I found was used by the Dusuns and Kadazans to treat diabetes. It is called Bellingcut, okay? And no one knows actually so far what are the active constituents. Now, we spoke just now about a very, mysterious and magic plant, feared by the Dusun, and that one is Taberna montana spherocarpa in the family Apocynaceae. And this family actually is one of the most important phytochemically and pharmacologically. So whenever you meet an Apocynaceae in Indonesia or Philippines or Malaysia, this has to be preserved and studied. So this plant is called Lampada by the Dusuns, and they were very scared of that plant, and they didn't even dare to touch it. Now, we've got here some example of plants which are, used by lots of ethnic groups without discrimination. We've got, I'm sure you know these plants, Pipea betel, Annona muricata, Sansevieria, Aloe vera, so forth and so on, but these plants are not interesting pharmacologically. Now, these are the ethnic groups of Sabah, okay? And most of them are Austronesians, okay? And within the Austronesian group, they are actually from the Bornean linguistic group, which includes the Dusuns, for instance, and also you've got the Muruts and other ethnic groups. So most of the local ethnic groups of Sabah are of Bornean linguistic, and some of them, I'm sure, are living in Kalimantan. And what I observed is that, again, I repeat myself, endemic plants are used mainly by people from the Bornean linguistic group. Now, the plant used by the Dusuns, okay, I think I don't have much time left to speak, so I will have to select a few slides. I will only speak about the plants of the Dusuns. The Dusuns are actually the major ethnic group in Sabah. They are living, as you can see, throughout the state. And they are using actually, if my, the Dusuns are using, allow me to get here a number. Okay. So the Dusuns call themselves Tulun Tindal. They are land people, they are farmers, okay. And they use a total of 445 plants, in their pharmacopée. And 191 species are only used by them. And you've got a good portion of these plants which are endemic and never studied. For instance, Dinocloa trichogona, Etlingera brevi-labrum, Psychotria chirulosa, another Apocynaceae, a rubiaceae, very interesting plant. And other plants are Memecilon scopolacinum, Nephelium macrophyllum, and Xanthophyllum reticulatum. So I don't have enough time to go through each and every of the ethnic groups of this Sabah. I will jump to some important point. Okay, I'm sorry about this. So these are about the other ethnic groups. Yeah. So interestingly, as I said just now, if you want to commercialize a product, you must make sure that it is absolutely safe for the customers. Okay. So it's a bit sensitive issue. Okay. You have to deal with business people. Okay. And business people they want to sell. Okay. But okay. So, but as scientists, we have to be honest. Okay. We cannot, rush and put something on the market and say it's okay, it's going to be right, and kill people. That is not acceptable. We can't do that. I mean, it's obvious, but it's very important before, I repeat myself, a plant goes in the market, okay, even as whatever, toxicity must be assessed. And you can see that in this slide that most of the plants of Sabah have not been the subject of any studies, toxicological studies, okay. Now, examples of plants which are poisonous. On the left, Morinda citrifolia. This plant grows everywhere in Malaysia, in the Philippines, and Indonesia. I'm sorry, I forget the local name of this plant. I don't know. I think that it is called Nona also. And the fruit that you can see are very rich in potassium. Okay? So potassium, if you've got kidney failure, if you're diabetic, if you take certain drugs like beta blockers, that will kill you. Okay? Too much potassium means cardiac arrest. okay? God forbid, all right? So that plant, although very popular, no way. Another one is Mimosa pudica. I think the local name of this is Putri Malu. Popular again, but contains too much tannins. Tannins and more than 5% of by dry weight give liver problems, and also mimosine, which is toxic. Lantana chamara, beautiful plant of the garden. It kills people. It contains deadly poisonous saponins. Tonkali, okay, it's now everywhere in the commerce, but there is one paper published by some Indian or Bangladeshi researchers, and a good paper that show that taking this plant can provoke prostate cancer. And you also have this later one, Sauropus androgynous, which is known as, I think, something like, I forget. It's a famous vegetable of Malaysia, which has been shown by Taiwanese to give lung problems. So again, for researchers and business people, before you go for a plant, you really need to go for the toxic effects. You can see here that Sabah has been very, very lightly studied, in terms of ethnopharmacology studies. In simple words, the west of Sabah and the southwest have not been studied at all. Now, to finish this talk, I would like to say that Sabah possesses a very rich diversity of medicinal plants and perhaps one of the richest in the world. And these plants have the potential to be developed as drugs, as over-the-counter medicines, and also as nutraceuticals, cosmetics, veterinary products, so forth and so on. But to be very honest with you, nothing has been done. There is not a single product of Sabah now in the market globally and internationally, okay? There's no one to blame. It is the way it is, okay? Maybe we can say that one of the reasons for that could be that there is no enough research fund, okay? No research grant. There is perhaps no enough collaboration with other countries. Also, perhaps you can see that there is perhaps too much administrative requirement to get access to the plants. It takes time, okay? But on the other hand, they're right because they don't want to be looted, okay? So, but I think that the shape of the world now, the situation is as such that we have no time to waste anymore. Big bugs are coming, much dangerous than COVID-19 resistant bacteria. The health system of the world, although good, we may have in the future to face some very dangerous situation. The populations may be, in a state of panic, and governments need really to, employ their local researchers, make research centers, and develop their own medicines to protect their own citizens, and they can make money by exporting their products to the world. I'm very grateful to UMK for giving me the honor to be with you today, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for that highly insightful and thought-provoking presentation. So it is really fascinating to learn about the medicinal potential hidden in the forests of Southeast Asia. So I think, Doctor, on behalf of audience, I would like to ask one question.
Yes, please.
Okay, Doctor? Okay.
Yes, carry on.
So, Doctor, so what will you recommend for young researchers who are interested in ethnopharmacology as their career path?
I think the best formation for researchers is to go for course of pharmacy. They need to become pharmacists. They need to enroll school of pharmacy, okay? Because pharmacy is the only discipline of science which gives you a complete intellectual understanding, because medicinal plant means that you're going to deal with botany, right? One. Yeah. Chemistry, two. Then you're going to go for physiology, pharmacology, toxicology, okay? Now, if you don't go to pharmacy, you are going to go, say, for chemistry. You might be a fantastic chemist, but you don't know anything about the receptors in the body and the diseases, okay? If you're a botanist, you can be a fantastic botanist. You know a plant name, but you don't know how it works in the body. So pharmacy or medicine, okay? But pharmacy is the best. Actually, Pharmacy is the mother of medicinal plant research, traditionally called materia medica, and actually, pharmacognosy. So this is what I will suggest to my young friends. But if they are already started with biotechnology, biomedical science, and it's okay. They can work with some later on. They can have they have to go for masters and PhDs. Try to find pharmacists as co-supervisors, okay? And then they get training along the years, and they can do that. It's not because you're a pharmacist you cannot do this, okay? But the most important, the message is that to these young people, I at my age I noticed that a good life, you will live a good life when you serve the interest of others. By serving the interest and the well-being of the community, if you can fix a problem around you, if you work all your life to solve a problem, like I want to find a drug to save the people of my country, when you reach an old age, you'll be at peace and happy. Okay? To dedicate your life to a quest, to a higher goal, which is I'm Indonesian, I love plants. Okay, I'm going to go to university and I'm going to work hard. I'm going to all my life to dedicate myself to that. Not looking for honors or glories or titles, which is good. Okay, if you get title, it's fine. It's good for you, no problem. Okay, but it must be a sacrificial, sacerdotal quest. Okay, and then you have to be passionate. And when problem come, when it's like you are in a box ring, right? Sometimes you are punch, you fall. They punch you for 1,000 times, you stand up again. Keep on standing up and remember your quest, and you'll have a good life. Okay, so it's about passion and
Passion.
also, hard work, and the wish to serve the community, the country, because these young generations are going to live in the future in 20 years in a very strange world.
True.
You're going to have diseases, new diseases, maybe some parasites, because the world, I mean, we are cutting the forest, right? We are cutting the environment is being pushed to its limit, and by pure biological logic, okay, law, when you push nature to its limit, it will bring a small virus or a small worm or whatever that will bring humanity on its knees. Okay, nature will not allow human beings to finish it. It will fight. Okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
understand.
it's a quest. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your great advice. So we have a question from one of our audience named Sujay.
Okay,
So the question is, if the herb is poisonous,
yes,
can we still isolate the compound for medical
yes.
usage or
It's a very good
avoid this
question.
plant?
It's a very, very good. Or a white, sorry?
Or we should avoid this plant?
No. You see, for instance, opium, right? You know opium, Papaver somniferum album, which was used in the Middle East thousands of years ago for magic rituals. Okay? If you take opium, a poppy of opium, if you swallow it, you get poison. Okay? You may die. Okay? But in opium, you've got morphine. And morphine used in hospital to assuage the pain of cancer patient. So if it's poisonous, no problem. You can go do for the phytochemistry, isolate the compound, and make some tests with animals, and you can have a drug into that. You see, for instance, Taxus baccata. Okay? Taxus baccata was used by, I think, the Celts or in Europe, or I think in a cold country to make some blowgun dart. Okay? It's poison. And what do you have in Taxus baccata? You've got a molecule which can cure cancer, like periwinkle. Periwinkle, Catharanthus roseus, it's poisonous, but it contains alkaloid that treat cancer. So it's a good question. If it's poisonous, doesn't matter. You work on it, but you don't use it to develop, herbal remedy or herbal tea or whatever, or shampoos or cosmetics.
Okay, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you again for addressing those
You're
questions
welcome.
so thoughtfully. So, Doctor, we truly appreciate your time and valuable insights for today. So,
Thank you
your
very
work,
much to you.
yeah, thank you, Doctor. Your work serves as an important reminder for of the wealth of knowledge and healing potential present in our natural ecosystem. So, and also I also like to thank our online audience for actively engaging with us this morning. So that's
Yeah,
conclude our,
I
yes,
have
doctor.
another thing is that if
Yes,
any of
doctor.
the young people want to contact me by email, they can. Okay. Okay. Don't be shy. Young researchers, master students, PhD, if you want to discuss, I mean, I asked the honorable committee to share my email address. Okay.
Sure,
And
doctor. We will share.
I'm willing to help and to discuss with young people. Thank you very much for giving me the honor to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. Later we will share your email in our Facebook and also in our website.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. So, Isli has been a privilege to moderate this talk for this morning. So now I pass the section back to our MC, Dr. Nurul. So stay tuned for the next part of our program. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Yang Burusa Associate Professor Dr. Christovia and the Honorable Professor Engineer Dr. Rifardi for your excellent keynote addresses. Your presentations have provided meaningful perspective on the role of tropical resources in advancing sustainable scientific progress. We also express our sincere thanks to both moderators, Dr. Pahmi at Betua Hall, Pekanbaru, and Dr. Nivarani virtually on this channel for your outstanding facilitation of the sessions. Ladies and gentlemen, so we have now come to the conclusion of the CTReSS 7.0 opening ceremony and keynote session. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to extend our appreciation to all distinguished guests and participants, both physical and virtual, for joining us this morning. Up next is the invited speaker session, which will begin soon at 11:45 a.m. Malaysia time and 10:45 a.m. Indonesia time. We highly encourage everyone to attend as we have an impressive lineup of invited speakers. This session will be conducted in parallel format and will be moderated by Dr. Amal Najihah Muhammad Noor and Dr. Muhammad Shakir Sulaiman from University Malaysia Kelantan. Please be informed that this parallel session will take place in a hybrid format. For online participants, kindly click on the Zoom link available on the conference portal to join the virtual room. For physical participants at Hotel Pangeran, please proceed to the designated venues, Bertua Hall and Bertua 2 Room. Ladies and gentlemen, before we end this ceremony, our deepest gratitude goes to everyone who has been involved in making this conference a success. To all participants, we look forward to the engaging discussion and valuable knowledge sharing that will take place throughout the rest of the conference. May you have a productive and enriching experience from today until tomorrow. To the participants who are attending the conference in person in Pekanbaru Riau, we wish you a pleasant stay in Indonesia until the end of the conference. Let us make this a meaningful and impactful experience together. With that, I end the ceremony today with Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Now, I hand the parallel session over to Dr. Amal and Dr. Shakir. Thank you.